From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome from beautiful Miami, Florida, where the coffee is perfect and the weather is even better. It's really like as a coffee enthusiast, coming to Miami, whenever I get a chance to come to Miami to just be here, I love it because guess what? Almost every hotel's got an espresso machine or some sort of Cuban coffee, or South American coffee that's just divine. You can't go wrong with coffee in Miami. For all of the people that tune in from Miami, I'm sure you would agree with that statement. So without further ado, before we get into this morning's show, which is packed, we've got several vulnerabilities. We've got some stuff happening on the geopolitical side between the US, China, and Russia. We're 6 days before President Trump takes office. So there's a lot kind of going on, a lot of moving pieces that could impact us in the year to come. So we're going to be talking about all of those and so much more, including some privacy violations. We'll get into that here in just a moment. So before we do, I've got a beautiful double espresso to share with all y'all this morning. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's an Illy coffee. For those who don't know, the hotel actually puts these here. It's delicious. It's great espresso, finally. Travel has its perks. All right. Without further ado, before you subscribe, follow, share, and like, you got to find out why. So let's get into this morning's show with threat actors now exploiting a critical severity remote code execution vulnerability in the Aviatrix controller that deploys malware, according to Wiz. The CVE 2024-50603 has a CVSS score of a perfect 10, and it exists because user-supplied inputs are not properly neutralized. It allows an unauthenticated remote attacker to inject arbitrary code that is executed with high privilege on the Aviatrix cloud networking platform. The solution itself is designed to help organizations manage and secure their cloud infrastructure across multiple providers from a single place. This impacts certain endpoints with the Aviatrix Controller's API, which is implemented in PHP. The vulnerability was patched in December, but now we're starting to get more details. And following public disclosure of the exploit was published on the Nuclei template and was also released. Wiz is warning over the weekend that they're seeing this exploit actually being taken advantage of in AWS cloud environments to do two things. One, deploy crypto miners, which, look, it's an easy way for threat actors to make money. At the end of the day, the cyber criminal gangs, they want to get crypto so they can sell crypto and actually liquefy it without having to be on kind of like the most wanted list for the FBI. That's number one. And then number two, backdoors. So that's what they're using this vulnerability for. And by the way, this is a low complexity attack. It's taken over authentication. And so the exposed vulnerable instances were confirmed being vulnerable to this, according to the folks over at Wiz. And based on their data at Wiz, only around 3% of cloud enterprises environment have Aviatrix controller deployed. However, it shows that 65% of those environments, the virtual machines hosting it, have a lateral movement path to the admin cloud control panel permission. And again, this kind of goes to the whole concept. And I had this conversation with a good friend of mine who kind of left the corporate world, went and started his own business. He deals on the Microsoft side on Azure infrastructure, but we kind of had this entire conversation of, when you leave security, and when you're in security, you're a business enabler. And in order to understand business enablement, you have to understand cloud infrastructure, cloud costs, cloud deployment, and so much more. And that's one thing that continuously is challenged in security, is the idea of understanding the business process of our applications, of our access through the cloud. This one being specific, where lateral movement path to the admin cloud control plane permissions exist. And because it's an unauthenticated user with remote code execution capabilities, you're actually able to easily laterally move within the network. So that's something to keep in mind there. We'll move on to Nominet, which is the official .uk domain registry, one of the largest country code registrars. It's confirming that their networks was breached due to the, I believe, Avanti VPN zero-day vulnerability. The company manages over 11 million .uk, .co.uk, and .gov.uk domains and other top-level domains, including .cymru and .wells. It also ran the UK's protective domain name service on behalf of the country's National Cybersecurity Center until September of last year, protecting over 1,200 organizations and 7 million end users. They're still investigating the incident. They haven't found evidence of any backdoors, but again, this kind of goes to the idea of how Ivanti is still in business. This is the first victim of the latest Ivanti 0 day here. This is the first victim coming forward. And again, different countries have different requirements to report. This one in the UK, the requirement is as soon as they figure it out, they've got to report it. And so now they're reporting it. They're still obviously investigating the impact, but another time Ivanti was used in order to access an organization. And unfortunately, and I say this with a breaking heart and a quiver in my voice, this will not be the only victim of the latest Ivanti 0 day. Many more will come forward in the next days, weeks, and months, and we'll be reporting them right here on the show so that we can keep track of it. And if you missed it, my entire article on Saturday was around Ivanti. What's wrong? What do we need to fix? And how do we approach it there as well? The US yesterday finalized the ban on the use of Chinese and Russian hardware and software in internet-connected vehicles on US roads. This is another kind of Slavo here in the last week in office of the Biden administration, where they've been issuing all kinds of executive orders and whatnot. They issued an executive order yesterday limiting the sale of chips and of AI semiconductors and microchips and all of that. That's gotten a lot that's infuriated industry as well as it should. You're leaving office in a week. Those are suggestions you can leave to the new administration, but this is just how about we take care of the folks in North Carolina that still have not received the adequate support they need from the storms they encountered? Or how about the folks in Los Angeles? The biggest insult I've seen yesterday by an administration and a government to its citizens is there's $700 to deal with the fact that your house just burnt down because we didn't have water in the fire hydrants in the Los Angeles area. The Commerce said on Tuesday that it would ban the import of Chinese and Russian vehicle connectivity system hardware, including Bluetooth, cellular, and satellite components, beginning with the 2030 vehicle model. So it's 2025 here. If I know my math correct, 2030 minus 20, that's 5 years from now. And while automated driving software from the two countries would be barred starting the 2027 models, that's 2 years from now. So in those 2 years, those cars are fine and safe. But 2027, they become very, very dangerous. And people wonder why we don't trust government. People wonder why when I hear someone say, we need more government regulation, my eyes just roll to the back of my head and I go, you don't understand what you're dealing with. Just not there. Remember One Blood, the not-for-profit blood donation center? Well, that they went through a cyber attack back in the summer, in July of 2024. Well, now they're finally releasing the fact that they're notifying folks that some of the personal information of donors was stolen in that cyber attack. So unfortunately, they're having to notify folks that their names and social security numbers, as well as some of their dates of birth and other information, was compromised as part of the ransomware attack on OneBlood. In news from Russia, a hacking group linked to Russian intelligence, aka Fancy Bear, has been leveraging seemingly legitimate documents from a Kazakhstan government breach as a phishing lure to infect and spy on other governments in Central Asia, according to researchers at Sequoia. And again, this kind of goes to the geopolitical side of what people kind of don't understand. When someone in cybersecurity tells me, I don't understand why we need to know geopolitical issues or challenges, or it's impossible to keep up with everything. True, but it's good to have general awareness. And the reason I say that is because if your company, if your business operates anywhere outside the US, which most businesses today do, right? And you operate within the former USSR, So Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, the whole area there. The geopolitics of that area with Russia are very, 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 very sensitive. And Russia leverages those governments that maybe underfund cyber in order to gain insights into their policies, into their strategies, into where specific people in specific roles are leaning. It's the Chinese playbook that they do in the US. The Russians do it to others. Well, Fancy Bear here attacked the Kazakh Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They stole a whole bunch of documents between 2021 and 2024. They then used those documents, authentic, real documents from the Kazakh Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and sent them as phishing lures to unsuspecting other members of various governments across the whole globe, right? And specifically in the former USSR nations. Primarily, they're looking at maybe what these governments think around the Russia-Ukraine war that's going on at the moment. According to previous research from Recorded Future, in the same campaign, they ensnared dozens of victims across Central Asia, East Asia, and Europe since at least July of 2024. It included the use of two different pieces of malware. One was HadVibe and the other was Cherry Spy that were previously attributed to Fancy Bear, which is known for their explicit cyber attacks. And you can see kind of the chain here, the execution, thanks to our friends over at Cyberscoop. And I'll have this in the show notes, by the way, for all y'all to see after the fact. You can find the full write-up of this show at cyberhubpodcast.com. And now, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Nudge Security. We're happy to welcome them back to the show. Here's a little message from our friends at Nudge. Hey, security gang. I'm so happy to welcome back Nudge Security to the show. And let's talk a little bit about identity risks, data security risks, and third-party risks, and what do they all have in common. They're made a whole lot worse by SaaS sprawl. Every new SaaS account adds a new identity to secure a new place where sensitive data could end up, and a new vendor risk management assessment you need to complete. Nudge Security addresses those risks at the source, helping you to protect and manage all of your apps, identities, and data anywhere and everywhere where it can happen. It all starts with discovery. Within minutes of starting your free trial, you'll have a full inventory of every SaaS account ever created by anyone in your org, along with insights into authentication methods, app-to-app integrations, vendor risk insights, and more. My team and I did this last summer. It was absolutely mind-boggling what we found. It helped us really kind of put a plan together and start a method of trying to automate security and governance tasks like detecting risks and misconfiguration. It helped us conduct user access reviews and help us offboard employees from specific apps that we didn't even know existed. It freed up our time for a lot more strategic work and vendor security profiles for every app, even Gen AI tools. It helped us do all of that, and it automated it, which I'm a big fan of. Nudge Security is graciously offering everyone a free 14-day trial by going to nudgesecurity.com/cyberhub. That's nudgesecurity.com/cyberhub. The link is in the show notes as well. Go get your free 14-day trial now. So thanks to our friend over at Nudge for their support of the show. Go check out their 14-day trial. Let's continue here as we wrap up the tail end of the show. The Microsoft Digital Crimes Unit is pursuing legal action to disrupt cyber criminals who create malicious tools that evade the security guardrails and guidelines of Gen AI. Specifically, an unsealed complaint in the Eastern District of Virginia. The company goes to great lengths to create and enhance secure AI products and services, while cyber criminals utilize those as part of their attack chain. With the action taken in court, they're sending a clear message: the weaponization of AI technology by online threat actors will not be tolerated. In a court filing that was unsealed yesterday, Microsoft noted it observed a foreign-based threat actor group developed sophisticated software that exploited exposed customer credentials scrapped from public websites. The group tried to access accounts with Gen AI services in order to alter capabilities of those services, then resold this unlawful access to other malicious actors. Again, the more tools, the more technology we add, the greater the threat landscape is. That's just if anyone ever tells you otherwise, they're lying. Simple. They're lying. Here, Microsoft is actually taking some real initiative. Here's the thing, though. These are foreign-based threat actors. So all of these court actions are really just a CYA. We saw it. We found it. We're covering our ass from a legal perspective. At the end of the day, they don't hone in unless you start validating the people who use your tools in a more effective way. And I think that's where we need to go. CISO, for their end, are still ordering everyone to please, for the sake of all good things in life, patch your beyond trust privilege remote access and remote support as it's being actively exploited. CISA is now requiring everyone tagging this and adding it to the KEV catalog and making sure this gets done. Texas, for their end, and Texas Attorney General Kevin Paxton is suing AllState and its subsidiary Aviatrix for allegedly illegal collecting, using, and selling cell phone data, location, and movement data belonging to more than 45 million Americans without their knowledge nor consent. AllState harvests trillions of miles of that data from American cell phones through secretly embedded software, already pays millions of dollars to place in mobile apps that tracks consumers' driving data, according to Ken Paxton. By failing to give consumers notice to get their consent for gathering and selling the data, AllState violated Texas's new Data Privacy and Security Act, and now he's taken action against them. So again, as more states, and this is the challenge when you have just state-based data privacy laws, the states are able to enforce them very, very differently. They apply a broad blanket until there's a federal data privacy law, which there is one. It needs to get through. It's bipartisan. Hopefully the new Congress and Senate will pass it, and we'll have a federal data privacy law, which hopefully will supersede the states. In its current format, it does not, but it does allow you to kind of, instead of having to report it to all 50 states and 44 territories, you'd end up having to report it to the federal, then it goes down, and then each state can deal with it as they see fit. So multiple types of data were being collected by the Aviatrix, not just phone geolocation data, but also accelerometer data, magnometer data, gyroscopic data, which tracks phone altitude, longitude, latitude, and so much more if you're wondering why insurance rates are through the sky. And finally, we're tracking down the days until the TikTok ban comes through. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Chinese officials facing the looming TikTok ban in the U.S. they don't expect to win their case in the Supreme Court have included discussing the possibility, although this has not been confirmed, of potentially selling TikTok to Elon Musk. Now, again, freedom of speech versus national security. Very, very big debate. But also monopoly. Elon Musk, what he did with Twitter is admirable. He's taken to social media. And now everyone's kind of following. We saw Zuckerberg and Meta kind of following the Twitter model with their announcement this week. But giving someone so much control over media channels seems a little bit sketchy to me. I'm pretty sure that would probably require an FTC investigation. But nonetheless, they've kind of thrown out the name of Elon Musk. And maybe they're throwing that out in order to just kind of like throw a bone at President Trump before he kind of gets into office as well. The Chinese are known to do that. But the TikTok ban is looming. It does not appear like the Supreme Court will overturn it based on some people I've spoken with who are legal scholars or are following the case. They've all kind of said they expect the Supreme Court will uphold the ban. And on January 19th, TikTok will no longer be available in the U.S. That's Sunday for all of those keeping track. That's it for our show this morning. I want to thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, live with all the latest and greatest. Until then, have a great rest of your day, y'all. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.